The call came at 2 in the morning. My phone lit up the darkness with an unfamiliar number. As a physician, you learn that calls at this hour rarely bring good news. But when I answered, the voice wasn't panicked. It was eerily calm. "Dr. Bennett, my name is Thomas Wright. I'm 79 years old, and I've decided tonight that I'm done living half a life. I either fix what's broken or accept that I'm finished. I found your name in a journal article from 1998. You wrote about vascular redemption. Is that real, or have I wasted my last bit of hope?" I'm Dr. Charles Bennett. Before retiring from active practice, I specialized in what I called masculine resilience medicine, helping men navigate biological earthquakes after 60. Thomas's call reminded me why I couldn't fully walk away from this work. Because somewhere in America right now, there's a man sitting alone wondering if the best parts of his life are permanently behind him. Thomas wasn't calling about urinary symptoms or prostate numbers. He was calling because 6 months after his wife died, he'd met someone, a woman named Claire, who volunteered at the same community garden where he grew tomatoes to keep from drowning in grief. She was 74, widowed 3 years, and when she smiled at him across rows of heirloom vegetables, something inside Thomas woke up that he'd thought was dead. They'd started having coffee, then dinner. Then she'd invited him to watch old movies at her place. One evening, sitting on her couch as credits rolled, she'd taken his hand and looked at him with an invitation that was unmistakable. Thomas wanted to respond, desperately, but his body wouldn't cooperate. For the first time in 56 years of active intimate life, nothing happened, not even a flicker. "I apologized to her," Thomas told me, his voice cracking. "I actually apologized for being attracted to her, like my body had betrayed not just me, but her too. She was kind about it, said it didn't matter. But Dr. Bennett, it matters to me. I'm not ready to be neutered by age. I'm not ready to become invisible." Here's what nobody tells you about masculine vitality after 70. The conversation always centers on whether you can perform. But what I've learned from 3 decades is that the crisis isn't about performance. It's about relevance, about whether you still get to participate in one of life's most profound forms of human connection. By age 75, over 80% of American men experience significant difficulty. By 80, that approaches 90%. Most physicians treat this as inevitable. The message men receive is, "You had your time, now accept limitations." I refuse to accept that narrative. After that phone call, I spent 4 months working with Thomas using a protocol based on research mainstream medicine had largely ignored. What Thomas discovered isn't a quick fix. It's a biological reset, addressing actual mechanisms causing masculine decline. Let me explain something most doctors never tell patients. When firmness fails, it's not because your testosterone dropped to 0. Most men over 70 still have sufficient testosterone. The real problem is in 3 systems: vascular endothelium, nervous system signaling, and cellular energy production. The endothelium is like your body's highway system. Nervous system signaling is the communication network. Cellular energy production is the power grid. When all 3 are healthy, masculine function works naturally. When any degrades significantly, everything breaks down. Here's the critical insight. All 3 can be restored. Not to age 25 levels, but to functional, satisfying levels. The key is understanding what damages these systems and what repairs them. I told Thomas we needed to start with his vascular system. The endothelium, that thin layer lining every blood vessel, becomes damaged by decades of inflammatory stress from excess sugar, oxidized lipids, chronic cortisol, toxins, and insufficient nitric oxide production. When endothelial cells are damaged, blood vessels lose their ability to dilate fully. They become stiff, less responsive. That's exactly what happens to penile blood vessels when endothelial function declines. But here's the extraordinary part. Endothelial cells can regenerate. I've seen 70- and 80-year-old men completely restore vascular function through targeted interventions. I gave Thomas a specific protocol. Every morning, he was to consume what I call a Vascular Rescue Smoothie, not a protein shake, not a typical health smoothie. This was specifically designed to flood his system with precursors and cofactors needed for nitric oxide synthesis and endothelial repair. The formula: 2 cups raw arugula, 1 raw beet, 1 green apple, juice of half a lemon, 1 tablespoon ground chia seeds, 1 tablespoon raw cacao powder, a small piece of fresh ginger, and 8 ounces of pomegranate juice. Blend until completely smooth. Drink within 5 minutes. Why these specific ingredients? Arugula and beets are loaded with inorganic nitrates that your body converts to nitrite, then to nitric oxide, through a pathway that becomes more efficient as you age. Polyphenols in pomegranate juice protect endothelial cells from oxidative damage while enhancing nitric oxide bioavailability. Raw cacao provides flavonols that directly stimulate endothelial nitric oxide synthase. Chia seeds deliver alpha-linolenic acid, reducing vascular inflammation. Ginger improves microcirculation. Lemon provides vitamin C, protecting nitric oxide from degradation. Thomas was skeptical. "Doc, you're telling me that drinking blended vegetables will restore my intimate function? That sounds like a late-night infomercial." I understood his doubt, but I also knew the science. "Give me 6 weeks. Drink this every single morning. No exceptions. If after 6 weeks you see 0 improvement in morning firmness, we'll try something else." But I've used this protocol with over 200 men in your age range. 73% reported significant improvement by week 4. Thomas agreed. For the first 2 weeks, nothing changed. He drank his smoothie faithfully, but his body seemed to ignore the intervention. This is where most men give up. They expect immediate results, and when those don't materialize, they conclude the approach doesn't work. But on day 16, Thomas woke at 5:30 in the morning with something he hadn't experienced in almost a year. Full morning firmness. Not weak, not partial. Complete tumescence that lasted nearly 20 minutes. He called that afternoon, and I could hear emotion in his voice. "It happened, Dr. Bennett. I didn't think it was possible anymore. I thought that part of my life was permanently over." That morning firmness was the first sign his endothelium was healing. Blood vessels were regaining their ability to dilate fully. But we weren't done. Morning firmness is one thing. Functional intimacy is another. We needed to address the second system, nervous system signaling. As men age, nerve sensitivity in intimate areas can decline. Mechanoreceptors detecting touch and pressure become less responsive. Neural pathways transmitting arousal signals from brain to genitals can become less efficient. This isn't about desire. Thomas still felt desire. It's about translating that desire into physical response. I introduced Thomas to something most American men have never heard of: pelvic floor rehabilitation for men. Not the Kegel exercises women are taught. Something more comprehensive, targeting the ischiocavernosus and bulbospongiosus muscles directly involved in firmness and maintaining intimate function. The protocol is simple, but must be done consistently. 3 times daily, Thomas would contract his pelvic floor muscles, the same muscles used to stop urination midstream, and hold for 5 seconds. Release completely for 5 seconds. Repeat 20 times. But here's the crucial addition. While contracting, he would simultaneously visualize blood flowing into penile tissue and focus attention on sensations in that area. Why the visualization component? Because neural pathways strengthen through attention and intention. When you direct conscious awareness to a body area while activating associated muscles, you enhance neural connections serving that region. This isn't mysticism. It's basic neuroscience athletes have used for decades. Within 3 weeks of adding this practice, Thomas reported increased sensitivity. He could feel sensations more distinctly. His body was becoming more responsive to both physical and mental arousal cues. But we still had the third system to address: cellular energy production. This involves something most men don't associate with intimate function at all: mitochondrial health. Every cell contains mitochondria, tiny organelles producing ATP, the energy currency cells use to function. As you age, mitochondrial efficiency declines. Cells produce less energy. This affects everything, including smooth muscle cells in penile tissue that must relax and expand during arousal. Without adequate cellular energy, those muscles can't perform their function properly, regardless of how good your blood flow is or how strong your neural signaling. It's like having a car with plenty of fuel and a working ignition but a failing battery. Thomas needed mitochondrial support. I put him on 3 specific supplements: coenzyme Q10, 200 milligrams daily in the ubiquinol form, more bioavailable for people over 60. Alpha-lipoic acid, 600 milligrams daily, a powerful mitochondrial antioxidant. L-carnitine, 2,000 milligrams daily, which helps transport fatty acids into mitochondria for energy production. Additionally, Thomas started cold exposure. Every morning after his shower, he would turn water to cold for the final 60 seconds. This mild stress triggers mitochondrial biogenesis, creating new mitochondria. It also activates brown adipose tissue, producing heat and improving metabolic function. After 8 weeks on the complete protocol, Thomas called with news that made me smile. He and Claire had successfully been intimate, not just once, multiple times over 2 weeks. He described it as, "Not like I was 40, but absolutely satisfying for both of us." She's happy. I'm happy. I feel like I've rejoined the human race. But Thomas's transformation involved one more critical element, something that might be the most important factor of all. And it has nothing to do with supplements, exercises, or smoothies. It's about how he viewed himself, how he talked to himself, the story he told about who he was and what he was capable of. The psychological dimension of masculine vitality is where most medical protocols fail completely. Physicians address the physical body as if it's separate from the mind, as if shame and belief and identity don't have measurable biological effects. But they do. When Thomas first called me, I heard something beyond desperation. I heard self-judgment. He'd internalized the message that his inability to perform meant he was somehow less than a complete man, that he'd become a burden, that his desire for intimate connection at 79 was inappropriate or pathetic. This internal narrative creates a stress response that actively undermines physical function. When you believe you're going to fail, your sympathetic nervous system activates. Cortisol and adrenaline rise. Blood vessels constrict. The exact opposite of what needs to happen. I told Thomas something that initially made him uncomfortable. Before your next intimate encounter with Claire, sit quietly for 10 minutes. Close your eyes. Take slow, deep breaths. And consciously release any expectation about performance. Tell yourself out loud if necessary, "I am enough exactly as I am." Connection matters more than performance. Pleasure is available to me regardless of outcomes. Thomas resisted. Doc, I'm not really the meditation type. I'm a retired tool and die maker. I work with my hands. This feels too soft. I pushed back. Thomas, your hands only work because your brain sends signals to them. Your intimate function works the same way. If your brain is sending signals of fear and shame, your body will respond accordingly. This isn't soft, it's strategic. He agreed to try it, and he discovered something surprising. When he released the pressure to perform perfectly, when he focused on connection and sensation rather than mechanical function, his body responded more naturally. The performance anxiety sabotaging him began to dissolve. This leads me to something I need every man reading this to understand. The restoration of masculine vitality after 70 isn't just about fixing broken parts. It's about redefining what vitality means. It's about moving from a performance-based model of masculinity to a presence-based model. Performance-based masculinity says, your worth is determined by what you can do, how hard you can work, how much you can provide, how dominant you can be in intimate situations. This model inevitably fails as you age because physical capacity declines. It sets you up for shame, inadequacy, and withdrawal. Presence-based masculinity says, your worth comes from who you are, the depth of attention you bring, the quality of connection you create, the wisdom you've accumulated, the care you offer. This model can grow stronger as you age because it's not dependent on physical dominance, but on emotional and psychological depth. Thomas made this shift over the course of our work together. He stopped trying to prove his masculine adequacy through performance metrics and started inhabiting a different kind of strength. The strength of vulnerability, the strength of honest communication, the strength of showing up fully for connection without needing to dominate or control outcome. Claire responded to this shift. She told Thomas one evening, after a particularly satisfying intimate encounter, "This is better than anything I experienced with my late husband in the last 20 years of our marriage. Because you're actually present with me, you're paying attention. You care about my experience, not just your own." That feedback created a positive loop. Thomas felt more confident, which reduced his anxiety, which improved his function, which increased his confidence further. But the foundation wasn't just physical healing. It was psychological transformation. Now, let me give you the complete restoration protocol I used with Thomas, adapted over hundreds of cases to maximize effectiveness. This protocol has 10 components. You don't have to implement all simultaneously. Start with 3 or 4. Build consistency, then add more as you're ready. Component 1. The Vascular Rescue Smoothie. Every morning, without exception. Component 2. Eliminate 3 food categories for 90 days. Added sugars above 15 grams daily. Processed seed oils. Processed meats. Component 3. Daily consumption of specific foods. Wild-caught fatty fish 3 times weekly. Grass-fed beef twice weekly. Free-range eggs daily. Raw walnuts and pistachios, 1 handful daily. Fermented foods. Component 4. Pelvic floor exercises, 3 times daily, 20 repetitions with visualization. Component 5. Strategic supplements. Coenzyme Q10, 200 milligrams. L-carnitine, 2,000 milligrams. Alpha-lipoic acid, 600 milligrams. Magnesium glycinate, 400 milligrams before bed. Vitamin D3, 4,000 international units. Omega-3, 2,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA. Citrulline malate, 6,000 milligrams in 2 doses. Component 6. Daily movement. 30 minutes vigorous walking. 3 weekly resistance training sessions. Component 7. Sleep optimization. 7 to 8 hours in dark, cool room. No screens, 90 minutes before bed. Component 8. Cold exposure. 60 seconds cold water after every shower. Component 9. Stress management through daily practice. Meditation, breathing exercises, or time in nature. Component 10. Psychological reframing through therapy, men's group, or journaling about aging, masculinity, and intimate function. Thomas implemented this protocol with impressive discipline. I've worked with mechanics, farmers, veterans, professors, all kinds of men who committed and experienced meaningful restoration. What surprises most men is how much better they feel overall. The interventions improving vascular health for intimate activity also reduce cardiovascular disease risk, improve cognitive function, increase energy, and enhance mood. 6 months after Thomas first called me, he sent a letter. Not an email. An actual handwritten letter on good stationery. It said, "Dr. Bennett, I want to thank you for giving me back not just my intimate function, but my sense of purpose. Claire and I got engaged last month. At 79 and 74, we're starting a new chapter together. People think we're crazy. Maybe we are. But I feel more alive now than I did at 70. Not because I can perform in the bedroom, though I'm grateful for that. Because I stopped resigning myself to decline and started actively building health. That shift in mindset changed everything." Thomas's letter sits framed in my home office. It reminds me why this work matters, but I need to be honest. This protocol requires work. It requires consistency. Most men won't do it. They'll read this, feel inspired briefly, then slip back into old patterns. Here's what I recommend. Start with 3 things: the morning smoothie, eliminating added sugars, and the pelvic floor exercises. Do those 3 consistently for 30 days. After 30 days, add 3 more components. Build gradually. Most men see initial improvements within 3 to 6 weeks. Significant improvements within 3 to 6 months. Raymond was 76, a widower of 8 years. He came to see me because he was tired of feeling old. After 4 months on the protocol, his energy had improved dramatically. He'd lost 18 pounds. His mental clarity was sharp, and he told me, "I'm having morning firmness again pretty regularly. I don't have anyone to share that with, but it feels good to know I'm not completely shut down. Like I still have life force, you know?" That life force, that vitality, that sense of biological aliveness, that's what we're really talking about. When you restore your vascular health, when you heal your cellular energy systems, when you release shame and embrace your continuing capacity for growth, you improve your entire experience of being alive. So here's my final question. Are you ready to stop resigning yourself to decline? Are you ready to invest daily effort in restoration? If yes, start tomorrow morning with the Vascular Rescue Smoothie. Commit to 30 days. Track your results. Remember, this isn't about returning to your youth. It's about optimizing your present. Thomas is thriving at 79. Raymond is thriving at 76. Not because they found magic solutions, but because they refused to accept that their best years were behind them. Your body wants to heal. You just have to give it the right inputs and remove obstacles preventing that natural healing. Start today. Make one choice that moves you toward restoration. Then make another choice tomorrow. String enough of those choices together, and 6 months from now, you'll look back at this moment as the turning point. I've given you the knowledge. I've shown you the path. The rest is up to you. Leave a comment below telling me which component you're committing to first. If this helped you, hit that like button and share it with another man who might benefit. Too many men suffer in silence. You're not broken. You're not finished. You're standing at the beginning of a powerful chapter if you choose to write it. Make that choice today. Your vitality depends on it. This is educational information based on clinical experience and research. It does not replace personalized medical consultation.